selected these three ladies and asked these three professionals to come up and help us is I think we are attorneys and counselors at law. And all too often we forget that we are counselors at law, and what we need to be doing is de-escalating conflict, not ramping it up. And I know the attorney's role in talking to all three of these, the attorney's role is very important in that. And I think that we have a duty to watch for alienation and to see what we can do to help families, and not to just say, ha, there's alienation and it's the other side that's doing it and we're going to go to court and we're going to win because they're alienating these children. What happens, you guys, when we've got the alienator? What happens when we have the wrong side of that equation? What can we do to help? And I know everybody here has probably seen that you're getting ethics credit for all of these presentations today. And this is one of the topics I wanted to touch on. Of course, the guardian ad litem statute requires that the guardian encourage settlement of the parties. And I think that as attorneys, our ethics require us to do that too. The lawyer's code certainly requires us to encourage civility. But as attorneys, I think there's a lot that we can do to go above and beyond and help families in the long run so that you don't see them back in your office for modification and enforcement in 2 years. So I would ask you guys to touch on that in your panel.
Okay. So the question is what to do if you have the alienating parent. The first thought that comes to my mind is that when I do an assessment as a guardian, I will put forth interim recommendations as a way to put forth a chance for intervention, right, to occur within, while everyone's still in place, where there can be court orders created. And I would say that if you have the alienating parent, that as an attorney, what I would depend on you to do, as well as the other counsel, is to help me contain the family within the intervention. So your client's going to be most resistant to this intervention. They're going to deny that it's an accurate assessment. They're going to state that there's been bias, that there's been mistake on the guardian's part, and they're going to insist that their children will be harmed by this intervention, whatever it is. If it's getting a consistent visitation plan back in place, if it's doing family therapy, if it's taking parenting classes, whatever it is, they're going to resist it. And so I would say help contain your client so that the intervention can push forward.
And I would add to that, when she says intervention, whether it's more time, in the parenting schedule or it's actually therapy, sometimes it's the favored parent, sometimes it's the rejected parent, but they won't come. When there's resistance, there's all kinds of things that get in the way, and so just really containment is the key, encouraging them. I talk a lot about if I can recognize that somebody, it looks like they are the alienating parent, I try to partner with them about the fact that it's part of the assessment stuff that Kelley talked about, looking to see if you can give them feedback and if they can change their behaviors, right? Because it's on a continuum, and so I try to partner with them that they're acting out of fear and they're trying to be protective, but to educate them about what it looks like for a child who's actively rejecting a parent and show them on a continuum what that looks like. So I'll talk to them about, like, let me help you help yourself, because if you go into court, what it looks like from the standpoint of the judge or for the professionals is that you're blocking, you're gatekeeping or whatever it is. And so I talked to them about trying to partner with them to let the process happen. And I found out early on that when I make recommendations in the therapy office, if it's not backed up by the attorney, it doesn't mean anything. I can tell them something and they are not going to have it. But if they go talk to their attorney and their attorney says the same thing, all of a sudden, wow, they're compliant and it works. So containment is key.
I think that one thing that we all have to keep in mind, and we, fall victim to it, and I know that this whole system, when these families come in, they're so, in some ways, pathological. There's so much personality disorder going on that we get pulled to fight with each other in a way that's so much more powerful than in any other situation that I've been in. So the professionals have to be very, very careful, and you have to always be asking yourself, is this my fight? Or is this her fight? You know, am I the dad now and she's the mom? And, you know, you have to constantly, I mean, I have to constantly do that. And, you know, if you have another person, if the other professional that you're talking to understands that, it's a lot easier. I mean, because you can say, oh, I'm being, you know, and you guys might, you know, do this with your clients with any topic, but, you know, oh, I'm being my client, you're being your client, we're fighting. But it's so easy to become a negative advocate or to just parallel and recreate that family system within the professional system.
Yeah.
And when you're that alienating parent's either therapist or attorney, then you really are in the most difficult situation, because it is really easy to become a negative advocate.
It's really easy to believe their story
Right.
and feel for them, and even though it's completely emotionally concocted, like maybe it's not even reality based at all. They have all these. They're so emotional that they pull the emotions out of us. I mean, human beings have this crazy knack of evoking in others whatever they're feeling. And so if I feel so powerless and helpless, you're going to feel that and want to help me and want to fight for me and protect me and help me protect my kid from this terrible situation. And along those same lines, the other thing that I wanted to say about what you guys can do is, as a therapist, they have to understand that I'm not the authority figure. I'm not also the one that, Kelley's role, the guardian role, can make decisions about increasing time. That's not my role as a therapist. And so if that's really clear, because parents will come in, I had somebody come in and talk about the fact that, you know, I held the key to everything. Everything was up to me, that, you know, we have to do what you say, and so I guess I'm here because I have to. And that doesn't help if they think that whatever they do, I'm judging constantly, and that's going to determine whether or not they're going to have more time with their child. So if one of the best things about being a therapist is I'm just teaching you the skills that you need to get what you want, to get what you need out of this situation. So if I can defer the authority to what the court order says or what the agreement is, it's not me, we're working towards this. So my role as a therapist has to be really clear that I'm not the one deciding. And even when it says in the court order that upon agreement, that, you know, and with the therapist's blessing, or however it's worded, has to be clear that it's an agreement that the parents make, and that I can contribute that, yeah, there's no problems, we can increase time, or it's probably.
So if we're the advocates, because that's a big part of our role, and we get this new client who plays the victim, and we haven't quite had the other side of the story, and we don't have court orders yet. How do we keep from enabling them and still, and not make them feel like even my own lawyer's not fighting for me, even my own lawyer's not listening to me, or whatever that they might feel, that, and we sort of have a natural tendency to, that's what we should be doing, is supporting our client, hearing their words, and advocating for their position. So, any tools you can
Well,
help
the
with
thing that comes to my mind, real quick, I want you to be able to say, but I think about, I don't know how many of y'all are familiar with Bill Eddy, but he talks about the ear response. Show empathy, pay attention, and respect. That little piece right there, to just for your feelings, for that client's feelings to be validated, for you to be able to say, gosh, I hear it, like I can see how upset, how helpless you feel, or, you know, to be able to accurately empathize with them and validate their feelings. Sometimes that in and of itself is enough to disarm them, and to give them a little bit of, to calm them down enough to understand that there's a process that has to take place, that things are, you know, to have patience for that process to unfold.
And I was just gonna say that if it's a case where there's been prior work, you know, referring to any previous evaluations, to help give you a more balanced perspective about your client, those can be helpful also.
But that therapist didn't know what she was doing.
Yeah,
And
but
the other
it-
side convinced her or him, you know.
Right, right, and but if there's been more than one, right, you can say, how could they all get it wrong? Or maybe they're not completely right, but maybe there's something here for you to look at, you know, or to see. I was also gonna, oh, go ahead.
What advice can you give for the primary parent that is falsely accused of parental alienation? Because this is something that I've had to deal with strategically in a number of cases. And when that term is bandied about in the case, it becomes a defensive battle for that person who may be being falsely accused of doing that. It's very difficult. It really is poisonous, and the term reunification assumes that there has been some family unity to start with. And there may not have been by that parent's choice, whether it was work or, you know, self-interest or whatever, may not have prioritized the child. And this, I find, is very difficult for us as advocates when we get the situation. And I'm curious if you have any suggestions for that, or if those false allegations are ascertained early on when you meet with people.
Assessments really are the best. Well, I mean, maybe that's not where you were gonna go. I think
Maybe.
also the term can in and of itself be a trigger for people, right? And so you can explain what's going on without using that term, and maybe when there's a strong reaction like that, different words need to be used. The child's showing resistance, the child's showing some anxiety to go, and we need to, in my mind, it's just a matter of we need to figure out what's going on. And a balanced perspective, an assessment is going to look at all the factors. Yes, there are these allegations that the client you have is the one doing this. Well, those are just allegations at some point.
I try not to even use the word alienation.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
ones that come in and are already telling me, I've done all this research and I know, and there's this, and they're pointing it all out. The thing I tell them is that as soon as you have that in your head, our brains are designed to look for validate what we already know. So everything is going to be filtered through that lens, and so that's all they see in every interaction. And so challenging them you want to validate it, because if they feel like they're being alienated and they feel like you don't believe them or you don't get it, they're going to stay there until they feel like you really do hear them and that you really believe them. So you have to validate their feelings of that and get them to a place where they can be open to the possibility that there's multiple, there might be other factors that can be happening and something else happening at the same time. So you got to look at what everybody brings into it.
Well, and also, it kind of sounded like you were talking about maybe it was estrangement or justified rejection versus alienation. Like maybe when you said that reunification implies that there was unity, and maybe there wasn't unity, maybe there's a justifiable reason why this is happening. And in that case, you kind of have to do a differential on, is this alienation, or is this justified rejection, or is it some hybrid of it?
Yeah, so like what you said was maybe for whatever reason they haven't been available. They were working all the time. Maybe you had a stay-at-home mom and was doing all the parenting, and now this kid's never even spent the night alone with dad. Now they're expected to go. That is about focusing on the fear and helping them understand that parents are different when they're not in that dynamic, and they bring, most of the time in my experience, the parent that hasn't been involved. And I'm guilty of this. Heck, when my kids were little and my husband traveled all the time, I'm a different parent when my husband's home or when he's not, because when he's not there, I know I'm on that schedule that Kelley was talking about. I got to get in bed, we got to do dinner, we got to do our chores, whatever. And when he's home, I'm much more lax because it's not just my responsibility. He has some too. So every parent is different. And so just helping them just be open to the possibility that that parent may be different when you're not in the room.
I was going to ask about personality disorders. You mentioned that, Ann, and Valetti has even talked about, it seems like there's more people with those symptoms and or diagnoses, and we often see people who have either our own client, God forbid, or the other side, most often in my cases, where they have a personality disorder that's been diagnosed. Do you have any specific, maybe it's all the same stuff you're saying, like how to handle them, but are there any specific thoughts about how to help a situation or a case like that where you know one or both of the parents potentially has a personality disorder? And does horse therapy, hypnotherapy, do you see that helping at all?
I think this is another hot button term
Yeah.
that can be used for evil instead of good.
That's true.
Borderline, oh, she's a borderline and he's a narcissist.
Yeah.
Okay, I can't remember a case in recent history where the dad didn't come in and say she was borderline, and then the mom came in and said she was narcissistic, and it's like, okay, now what are you gonna do about it? You know, these are just the terms that you've placed on each other. Now, what is the intervention for that?
And those symptoms are still, even if they are borderline symptoms or narcissistic symptoms, they're still on a continuum. So what progress or help you may be able to make in one case with one particular person doesn't necessarily transfer to another person with a similar diagnosis.
Well, and I just think labels in general, like I said, as soon as they say the word alienation, there we are.
Yeah.
So same thing with personality disorders. You asked if does the equine therapy work? Yes, because it's about patterns. Remember, personality disorders are a result of attachment wounds. And so if you think about how trauma affects the brain, we're trying to survive. And kids really, like Kelley said, deep down, they want. I started out in foster care, and in those cases, you know, there's been substantiated abuse or neglect. I mean, sometimes really severe situations. Every one of those kids still wanted to be with their parent. They just wanted the behavior to stop. Or they would just deny it and pretend it didn't happen. They would say it didn't. So the point is that all personality disorders are a result of attachment wounds that disrupt the normal process, and so they are trying to survive in whatever family system they came out of, and that's how those patterns of dysfunction come out of it. So I just think about it all as, you know, relationship patterns that have to be rewired. That's the whole, I mean, that's what's beautiful about experiential models, is that you get to have a new experience. You get to do it differently. We talk about do-overs all the time. If whatever happens that feels very similar to the same dynamic that made me feel disrespected, then let's do that again. Let's. How do you want it to be? What do you need out of the situation? Let's do it differently.
Well, and in intervention too, you know, a lot of people, when you're looking at a case where there's going to be a transfer of residence or some sort of hiatus that's put on a child's time with the parent who's been deemed to be the one interfering, right? That's where it ends. A lot of time, everybody, well, and it's a hard course to get there, right? So everybody's like, okay, we did it. In actuality, you know, it's just started. You're going to try and repair and regenerate the original attachment with the parent that's been rejected, but then you don't stop there. You integrate the parent who has some things to learn to do differently. You have to reintegrate the child with them. And in the case of a severe personality disorder, part of that reintegration is teaching the child to cope with how the disorder displays itself in their relationship with them. So if there's the tendency to manipulate the child or to imply subtleties that are negative about the other parent, part of the next piece of the intervention when you're reintegrating is to help the child to see that. You know, well, your dad says that about your mom having all those boyfriends, but how many boyfriends have you seen coming in and out of the house? You know, and so you're teaching critical thinking skills teaching the child to the extent that they're able to learn to hold both of their relationships, to not have to give up one relationship. So you're teaching coping skills to the extent you can.
I was going to ask about resources. I keep a resource library in my office with the dinosaur divorce and stuff like that, age appropriate for kids. And one client many years ago gave me the book, Mistakes Were Made But Not By Me. Is there a resource that you have that's age appropriate, or do you have a list that we can share with our clients when they come in to help them understand that dynamic and maybe recognize their own role in it?
Yeah, I keep a reading list, and I'll be happy to share it with you. Yeah.
And we'll put that on the bar website too, for whoever wants that.
I had a question. I've heard you say it a couple of times, and I did never catch the last part of it. Personality disorders are
A result of attachment wounds.
attachment wounds. Thank
Yeah,
you.
it's
Okay.
trauma in those relationships.
Got it. Thank you. I have one other question. You mentioned in your therapy, Tammy, needing a team of therapists. From my experience, once I start talking about, or specifically like in a CPS context, judge says, well, the CPS says everybody needs individual therapy. And then when we add a family therapist, sometimes the individual therapist goes, whoa, family therapist, I'm out. You can't have two therapists. How do you, tell me how I reconcile that, and tell me how you reconcile that as well, because it's happened more than once, and then somebody thought they had a good thing going with their personal therapist, and then they said, hands off, I'm not doing this anymore.
Right.
Well, it's not exactly accurate to say you can't have an individual therapist and a family therapist. They can't be both.
Right.
So,
One therapist can't play both roles.
yeah, but it's I think it's supported in standard procedure in alienation cases to have a team approach. That would include and in at least one or two, maybe three individual therapists and a family therapist. That's really pretty common.
And I would say the key with that is also that there's got to be communication among the professionals. Like, I have some situations where I've got a parent coordinator, I'm a parent coordinator on a case, and it's been like 10 years. And so the individual therapists that work with one of the individual therapist that works with one of the parents refuses to talk to me because she doesn't want to be a part of the dynamic. And we haven't had any issues until just recently when something blew up, and now we need everybody to be communicating, and that therapist refuses. So the putting your team together and making sure, and I've had other cases where I thought I had somebody that was going to work really well doing the co-parenting piece. Now this was 15 years ago, was a case that you and I had, Margo. And after 3 years, I had been working with a kid, and it was clear that the stuff that started with the kid had been worked out, and now what was left was the co-parenting piece. And so every time the parents would come and complain, I'd say, oh, it sounds like a co-parenting issue, sorry, I can't help you. You need a co-parenting therapist, because they didn't want to get co-parenting therapy. They didn't want to add another therapist. So that was my mantra. I had this other therapist that I thought was going to be great co-parenting with them, and I refer that, the parents are willing to do it, and I refer them to that therapist. And I didn't have a release yet, so I just said, hey, I'm sending you a really crazy, complicated case. Get a release as soon as you can and talk to me. She didn't get a release, and she blew the whole case up. Like 3 years of my work, I had to withdraw from the case. Like 3 years of my work was gone. So having people that work collaboratively, and that goes back to the training about, and having enough understanding and experience working with these families that you know how to collaborate, you know the pieces. And when I say a team approach, the thing about the equine model is that it comes with a team. There's a therapist and there's an equine professional too. And the team approach is an interdisciplinary approach, meaning the legal system and the therapeutic process can work together to support each other. So I mean team by lots of different ways.
Okay, thank you.
Can I say, I don't know if this is gonna be helpful, but this is what I say to my clients when they say, why do I need a family therapist or why do I need an individual therapist? I say, well, your individual therapist is somebody that's just for you. They're your advocate. You can go in there, you can say whatever you want, and they're gonna validate your feelings, and you don't have to share that person with anybody. When you have a family therapist, the family therapist client is the family. It's not you. So sometimes you're not gonna get what you need, and you might actually get challenged in a really harsh way. And so you can go back to the individual therapist and you guys can talk about it and you can feel supported, and then you can go back into that family session.
Right.
Exactly.
My experience had been that once the individual therapist found out that the court-ordered family therapy, that the individual therapist would back out. No, I can't do that. You can't have multiple therapists. And
Well, because maybe that therapist thought they were being asked to do the family piece?
no, they find out that there's another therapist and they go, oh, you can't, it's unethical for me to treat you and be in family therapy at the same time.
Well, you have to tell them that I think people don't know that those are two different roles. I mean, in our ethical codes, it says there can't be two individual therapists, but, if you can explain to them that it's the family therapist, a completely different role, it's a different service.
Yeah,
It's
because
not the same service.
like what Ann just said, it's like it depends on, like, which role you play determines who is your client. Is your client the family? Is your
Right.
client the parents? Is your client an individual within the family system? That's the part that we can't function in a dual role.
Right.
I have a question about what success you see or how to go about getting success in putting together a team model for the court, like putting together a case for the court. You have a hearing, trying to get the judge to get on board with ordering, overcoming barriers model, or doing a team approach, doing equine therapy. Have you all seen a path to success for a court order in that regard?
I did a presentation for the Travis County judges in April, and they've just now started ordering it, and then they just call and ask me. I remember you talked about this, is this and sometimes they'll just order it when it wasn't appropriate, but it's kind of a learning thing, but you keep that line of communication open, and then they want to know, because for these families, as you all know, there's not a whole lot of help out there. There's not a whole lot of mental health professionals who are willing and
Or
able
able,
to do this, and there's not a whole bunch of different programs, and like I said, there's not a lot of scientific, studies about, and not enough data on the efficacy of it. So it's just, you need to ask different people, and we will give the answer based on our training, our perspective, our clinical experience.
And from my perspective, it's a temporary orders hearing or an agreement between the lawyers for temporary orders that follow the guardian's recommendation for a particular treatment team, right? And I would, in my recommendations, name who that treatment team would be. And then I oftentimes will set out expectations where there'll be team meetings every 30 days, and there'll be a summary of the meeting sent to the lawyer, so everybody's kept abreast of what's going on, and my office arranges those team meetings, and people that are asked to be on that team have to be willing to come outside of their therapy office and meet as a group, which is very hard to get traditional counselors to do. And that's how we move forward, so that there's the therapists are not asked to step outside their ethical boundaries to make recommendations for changes to the possession schedule. There's a guardian there who arranges the meetings, takes feedback from everybody about how everyone's doing, and are we ready to move forward with reintegrating the child with the other parent or extending visitation. Then the attorneys are informed about that, and that's every 30, 60, 90-day thing before we're maybe ready to have a mediation or have another temporary orders hearing.
Do you see that there needs to be a specific statement or phrase in the guardian ad litem order maybe that allows you to do that? So you're making recommendations for potentially conservatorship, possession, and other, recommendations for therapy? Or what do you think there needs to be something specific in the court order that would permit you to make those recommendations?
Sometimes the court or the appointment for the guardian can be fairly specific about the guardian's going to make an assessment about what the family needs and if there needs to be a change in possession and access or a change to custody. But other than that, I think that the temporary, after my interim recommendations come out that spell out a treatment program or an intervention, the temporary orders reflect that, those recommendations. And that includes 30 or 60 or 90-day meetings and changes to the possession schedule.
Question. I have a case with Ann right now. How does an attorney best help the parent who is the targeted parent or whatever, or feels that way, but who is, it's a case that I would call a hybrid case, okay? You see some extreme behaviors by the child and targeting things, both the child doing it to themselves, but also to the one targeted parent. And it may not be severe, and I don't even want to use alienation because I don't know exactly what's going on there, but there's something happening, and it may have been, undermining that started when they first started talking, and yet now they are teenagers and they've had this kind of family dynamic going on. But you have the parent who's watching the child suffer and needs assistance. What do we do other than, like in my particular case, it was sending them to somebody else who could help them, coach them, as you guys say. Because I'm not a mental health professional. I don't know what's really going on. That's where we need all of you. But what can we do for them other than those types of things that would be helpful in those situations to help calm their fears somewhat as they're just kind of standing on the sidelines watching their child disintegrate to some extent or change drastically, and they don't understand it.
Well, there's a lot of, the ones that are coming to my mind of things to say to the kids are things that alienating parents say to their kids. So I think you have to be very careful, when you're giving them, if you have any, because I'm thinking in a normal situation, you could have a parent say, give me a call if you need to talk. Not in this situation, usually. I mean, that's usually, if you give the parent permission to do that, then it could turn into something not very productive for the child. That's a hard question.
I heard you asking a little bit about how to support the targeted parent, and so
And when I say targeted parent, I mean,
right,
this is the parent who the child is reacting to.
right,
And we don't know exactly why.
right.
But it's severe
Yeah, and
towards
it's
that parent.
devastating.
And they're watching their child hurt.
Right. And I always try to remind those parents of the importance of staying healthy, right? That the child needs to, when they do return, they need to return to a healthy parent. They don't need to return to a devastated parent because the child couldn't internalize the guilt associated to their part in that. So staying healthy is one of the best things they can do. That may mean individual therapy with a therapist who understands alienation and also can provide some parent coaching about, if they are still seeing the child, what are ways that they can respond? What's a productive way to react to what can be horribly mean things or rejection, or withdrawal. And then keeping their support system strong, exercise, spiritual support systems so that they're grounded in their faith, something that's larger than what they are, something they truly believe in. Their friendships need to stay strong. All of those things, I think, help. And there's a guy who does some videos. His name's Ryan Thomas. He he has some videos that people can watch. He was an alienated child, and he talks about what really helped him, what his father did to stay in touch with him, and how no one knew how much those things really helped. And he gives some great advice to parents, even has a special on holidays and celebrations, how to get through the child's birthday, how to get through Christmas, and try to stay as healthy as possible.
Would it be possible for each of you to send to maybe Patty or somebody, since Patty's putting it together, resources? Like you said, the Ryan Thomas videos, the particular books that you can send to her that we can then put up on the website to say, here's some resources to direct your client to start with that you know are good, effective resources.
Yeah, the only thing I would add to that is that sometimes you have to be cautious because I try to gauge how teachable is the person in front of me. You know, when I start challenging some of the things or talking about how it affects the kids, are they receptive? Do they get defensive? What happens? Because sometimes you direct people to these resources and they just learn more. They get more skilled. They get more skilled at what to say.
They use them for evil.
They do. They do. So you got to be careful.
Yeah.
Okay, we have time for one more question. I think there's one back in the back,
Wait,
and then,
okay.
Go ahead, Leonard.
then we have some announcements.
So, all of this costs money. And a lot of my clients have, by the time they're going through the divorce, or say they've already gone through the divorce and now they're looking at modification, they're spent. There is no really excess in their budget to pay for some of these things. And so, how can we direct them to help them become healthy when they can't afford to come pay a therapist weekly or 2 therapists weekly or for some of these more expensive solutions?
That is the hardest question.
I'm good at asking
And and I don't have a good answer for that one. I know like Overcoming Barriers is a nonprofit, and that's how they can lower their costs. The psychologists come from all over the country and they work for free just because they, believe in it for that 1 week. And I don't know how many programs are like that, I just started mine, so I'm not in a position to do that. But my goal, most of mental health professionals, we do want to do some community service. And we do care about, people that don't have the same means as the people that we're talking about. So, nonprofit, I might have a scholarship. I'm thinking once we get started, I could have like a, once every 6 months or however I could, afford, have people that are just really into this that are willing to come and work for free for a weekend and have, somebody like that be able to come, because it is ridiculously expensive. Because like I said, this is really, really hard work, and we're under fire. We get board complaints, we get lawsuits, we get in trouble with the court. All of, many of the attorneys go after us. There's just not very many people that want to do it, and the people that do want to do it are like, I need to be compensated for this. So it's really hard to find low-cost services for something that's good. Because there might be somebody that's on your insurance or whatever, but they're not going to have this. They're not going to have the same experience and training that we do, and this is really tough.
What I can say about all the ladies that have come to visit with us, all these professionals, is that time to time I've called each and every one of them and said, hey, I have this situation and I don't know which direction to turn. And they don't charge me for that phone call to give me some advice and some options and some resources and let me know what might be available out there. So as attorneys, I think that, I hope I'm not flooding your phones, but you do take a minute to talk to us, and you do come talk to us at Bar Association meetings. And I just can't express our thanks enough for the work that you do in our community and with the families and with our clients, and with the opposing parties on cases, because each and every one of you have made a tremendous difference. I know in my personal cases, and everybody out here probably has the same story, so thank you so much for being here.